Welcome. What's going on? This is Ted from Practical Wellness Radio. My co-host, Coach Cody, is going to be jumping in just a moment. And today on the pod, we're joined by Dave Hagerty, doctor of physical therapy. And Cody and I really enjoyed the opportunity to sit down with Dave. Dave's got a great outlook on training, on holistic whole health and wellness approaches to life. And we hope you guys enjoy the episode. First, we always like to dive into this warm-up wave that we do. And this is for anybody who is maybe on their way to the gym. This is a fitness podcast, so a lot of people are invested in fitness. Probably listen to this. Maybe you're listening to this while you're just getting to the gym, while you're even working out. So the point of this is to just kind of dial you in and maybe help you focus towards whatever it is you're working on. So here we go. Make what you do speak so loudly that no one is going to be able to hear what you're saying. And so when it comes to saying anything, let's just put the work in. Instead, here's some work that we can do. We can exercise hard and often today, every day. We can be nice to people and smile even if we don't know them. We can help people yet expect nothing in return, and we can leave zero room in our heart for hate. Don't just do your job, always go above and beyond. Own today, own tomorrow, own your life, and make what you do speak so loudly that nobody is going to be able to hear what you have to say. Okay, and at this time, we'd like to welcome in Dr. of Physical Therapy, Dave Hagerty. Dave, thanks so much for coming on Practical Wellness Radio.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just kick things off. Let's hit the ground running. Physical therapist, Dr. of Physical Therapy. How'd you get started in PT, Dave?
Super good question. So it was kind of a weird path for me. I actually graduated from Iowa State with a history degree. But I was doing like CrossFit throughout undergrad and didn't want to go to law school or become a high school teacher. So I started to look for other routes. I dealt with PTs in the past for like little injuries and then a little bit of like performance coaching in high school. So I liked them. Like they talk a lot. They seem to be interested in the body. So I kind of started taking medical prereqs. I actually applied to get into medical school and got waitlisted at the University of Iowa. And thank God I did, because I didn't want to, in hindsight, I don't want to be a doctor, a physician. And so at the same time, I was investigating physical therapy school and got lucky enough to get into Iowa's program. That whole time I was coaching CrossFit, like being very active. And I'm like, well, how can I kind of take a path that's going to allow me to have like something steady and quote unquote safe? And, make money in kind of a fitness and health related thing. The funny thing is like you come back full circle, and a lot of physical therapists are basically going back and doing performance coaching. They just have a doctorate degree now. And my wife reminds me all the time that like because I have multiple buddies who are doing exactly what I wanted to do when I started out, which is they have gyms that are oriented towards strength and conditioning, and they train, people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, maybe even 70s, and they're keeping them healthy, and that's basically what physical therapy should kind of be, in a lot of ways. And but she, like, I know a ton about the body, things that I otherwise wouldn't know, and that's the kind of, I have no knock against people who are just trainers, but you don't know until you know type of stuff. And when I was coaching CrossFit, there was a lot of things that now I can look back and be like, well, that would tell my former self this in regards to rehab, load management, and that type of stuff. But the gap is closing, and I think there's trying to be a more collaborative effort, as long as, like, and Cody says this well, it's like high tide brings up all ships, the more you can.
I don't know how many times I've said that, though, Dave. Maybe to you.
You've said it to me multiple times.
Right.
Yeah.
Have I ever told you that, Dave?
A low tide also sinks all ships. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
but that's a glass half
true,
empty type expression versus half
that is
full.
true. That is the mindset I like to have. I think if you look around, like, over the last 5 to 10 years, the industry is a lot different in terms of the general knowledge that a coach has or a PT has. And you're certainly right. That gap is closing in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I feel like that is absolutely true.
I agree 100%. I really like what you said there too about, like, I think a lot of times when you're a fitness coach, whatever you're doing, I think, like Cody was saying, 5 to 10 years ago, the number one job of maybe a CrossFit coach was to be a cheerleader. Like, that was kind of the number one thing, is like, like high five and motivate people and whatever. And I think that stuff still is great and still super important to get people excited about exercise and fitness and health and wellness. But, to make it a career, like you said, you were kind of in a search for, to be able to, like, blend the coaching into the PT. And then you get to this point where you're like, man, I remember 10 years ago, I thought I kind of knew it all. And it turns out I've learned 100 times more since then than I knew. That's well put.
Do you find, Dave, that the more you know, the more you feel like, or the less you feel like you actually know?
Yes. I would say that's that classic. I can't remember the exact expression, but never trust somebody who thinks they have it all figured out. And, like, the more someone learns, the more they realize they don't know anything,
Yeah.
And that's okay. 'Cause, like, what life really, really is just test, retest. And if it works, you go down that path for a little while, and then something will come that's going to challenge either your beliefs or the system that you thought was working for you, and then you're going to have to figure out the new system, right? I found it fascinating. Like, I learned this a couple weeks ago. So, like, robots scare the crap out of me. These robots that are doing backflips and stuff.
Yeah.
And we think, like, we're, like, programming in what the robot's doing, but, like, do a backflip or whatever. But really, the robot's just given parameters that it tests and retests to figure out the task. And that's the same thing we do, right? Like, you think somebody's got the perfect system for you, but, like, Matt Frazier, Rich Froning, these guys that, like, I was like, I want to be them, and I'm going to do the same things. The secret sauce for them is not the secret sauce for me.
Oh,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
So, and that's what you kind of figure out, is, like, figuring out what's going to, it needs to be both, like, individual to you, but you also shouldn't gravitate, or you shouldn't go away from the stuff that generally works for everybody, which is, everybody wants the special sauce for them,
for sure.
but, like, you gotta find there's, like, 75 to 80% of it, if not more, is, like, the same for everybody. So
tell me. I want to say, hold on. I want to say this too, while we're still kind of on this topic of individualization and, like, what it takes, especially, like, at a higher level. I was listening to Matt Frazier's podcast. He's on a podcast. I was talking to Ted about this, I think, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, but he was saying that he takes his own mattress to hotels to sleep on. Like, he gets it shipped in.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And he leaves with it. And if that's what it takes, if that's what it takes to have his special sauce, I don't want that sauce.
No, I don't remember. You didn't tell me that. That is really interesting. I also thought it was funny too, how, like, so I know this has happened to both you guys, and it's I have to kind of watch what I say because I don't want to like step on anybody when I say this, but like how often does it come up for either of you guys where somebody's like in a very like non-structured like format as somebody's like, oh yeah, you know, you do fitness coaching or you help people, you're a PT, whatever it is. I need you to tell me what I should eat. And you're like, what? Like, that's not like, we're not going to have this conversation. I'm going to tell you what you should eat in a matter of 2 to 3 sentences. You know what I mean? That is kind of like, that happens to me all the time. And it's just, like you said, it's a test retest for everybody. And if there was a secret sauce, we would all just be sipping on it, right? Because there isn't.
Really
you know, like,
it'd be really easy.
Yeah.
It's not, obviously. It's not. You can look at like just statistics and obesity rates and all this stuff and how it's climbing over the years. It's not easy, and it's a process, and I think that goes over people's heads a lot of times.
Yeah. No, and it's like have you guys ever read the Book of Five Rings by that old Japanese samurai?
no, I haven't. No.
Like it's like
no, I've thought about it though.
One of the big things is he just says it over and over again, is like when you see the way, like the way in one thing, you start to see it in everything.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
And it's
Isn't it like master the art of painting and then you'll be able to master other avenues? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, and I think what it attests to is like once you've found success because what you realize success or in any venture is like you focus on the simple basic things and you do them really, really well consistently. And then that allows you to it's basically focus on the process, and the process will yield you the results. And you see that in everything. Like,
Oh yeah.
like if you wanna retire at 55, save 40% of your income, cut your expenses, like invest the money, and just abide by some simple principles, right? And then, like, if you want to get good at lifting weights or get stronger than you are, consistently show up 3 to 4 times a week, maybe a little bit more, like work on things that are progressively challenging, and over time it'll start to work in your favor. Like, you know, that's just learning, right? But everybody, like our medical system, we'll get back into like physical therapy and health, and like our pretty much everything that people are sold on is to try to get them the quick fix. Like, this thing, I want this thing because it's going to get me or make me feel the way I want to feel right now. Like, and, you know, you can say that's like a car or, you know, a pair of Lululemon pants or a pill or a surgery. It's like, I want this thing now. I want to feel like I'm on the right path right now. And that's what sells us. So, well,
that's kind of human nature though, too, is, you know, we want to find the path of least resistance. It's kind of innate in us, which is a good, like, it's not a bad thing, but we have to be hyper aware of when it's not helpful, right? It's easier to lay on the couch, you know, and do whatever compared to going out and, you know, throwing some weights around or going for a jog or whatever the case may be. But, you know, long term, that's not a useful, you know, avenue, right? So I think that's just inherent, and you can kind of apply that to anything. Like you're saying, like, okay, let me just, instead of, you know, changing the head gaskets on my truck, I'm going to do this and just get by because it works now, right? But it might be a detriment later on. It might cost you more money.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell me, Dave, what, let's get back to PT. What do you really enjoy about PT? What maybe attracted you to it, and maybe even like today, you know, what excites you about continuing to do some physical therapy?
I mean, the thing that really attracted me to like the profession itself was, I mean, what we're all trying to do in any industry is get people to listen to you, you know, like, so I wanted to help people. But I also just like how to, you know, people have to trust you to be helped, right? And so that trust process, I think the difference between me 5 years ago and me now is like I got a credential, and the credential's great, but people have also had a lot of like there's so many people that have had physical therapy and they haven't had a good experience because they think physical therapy is like this modality, you know, but physical therapy is just a relationship between two humans, one of them that kind of knows the way to improving pain or performance or that type of thing, and another who doesn't necessarily know. So what excites me or what I love about what I do is in good circumstances, I can really like help someone achieve their goals, and I can help people with one of the things that's like really difficult to deal with in life, which is like physical pain and like the frustration associated with not being able to do the things that you enjoy doing, which is really hard. It can be really awesome, and it's kind of like anything else. Someone has to be open-minded enough to like come in and want to do work, because ultimately you have to do the work to see the results. But then it's on me to really build a quality, like trustworthy relationship to get them to want to like to believe that they can, reach their goals. One of the biggest barriers is that people really tend to think of themselves like a car, like our human body as like a car, like
machine,
your knees, your knee's broken. We'll put in a new knee and it'll be good. Like, we're going to change out your brakes and whatnot. And like, I just have really been thinking about this a lot. Is like the analogy I use is like your body is more of an environment than it is a car. It's an ecosystem that has tons and tons of variables, and your joints or whatever aches lives in the environment of your body. So looking at your knee as if it's like the source of your problem because it hurts is not really productive, because there's so many things that could contribute to your knee pain or your back pain or whatever. And a lot of those things are like our nervous system and our beliefs, so that can be really hard to sell, especially if they've been told by another medical practitioner that, oh, you have degenerative changes, you have arthritis and that never gets better. Those narratives like don't help people get better either. And surgery is very expensive and very costly. So like one of the things that really motivates me is like, think of how much money we could save and put towards other stuff if we didn't spend billions of dollars on surgeries that might not be necessary. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. Quick story about me. My wife is a family physician, and so we moved in the last year, and she inherited a new patient population. And she never shares any of her stories with me because that's illegal and you can't do that, right? So I'm not going to share any of those here either.
Yeah.
But with that, she inherited a new patient population, and a lot of her patients, I don't want to get anybody in trouble again, were given a lot of quick fixes previously by previous physicians. And now my wife is like, we're not going to do that anymore. Like, we need to find the root of the problems in the ecosystem, which was a great analogy, by the way. I've never heard anybody say that.
I haven't either. That was great.
That was great. So she's living it. She's going through it. And it's like, she'll have people call the office and they say, I want to be seen by the doctor today because I need this done and I need a refill on this and whatever. And Amy just has it set up where she's like, no, you're going to come in and we're going to talk about how to address the problem. Right. We're not going to put a Band-Aid on anything. And it's not easy. And she's struggling to draw the line in the sand for these people who have been given a lot for years and years and years. And it's never really fixed the root of the problem. So I guess my question is for you now, Dave. So let's say you have somebody who maybe we finally talk them into PT that they need, and they've been so far past the track for so long with the quick fixes. How do you deal with somebody who maybe wants to feel better, but doesn't seem to maybe really want it? Like, is it a motivation? Is it conversation? I'm sure you've been in instances where you've had to deal with somebody and it's like, they're here because they think they're supposed to be here, or somebody told them they're supposed to be here, but it doesn't really feel like they want to be here. What do you do in that scenario?
Yeah, that's super, super common because a lot of times, first of all, like kudos to your wife for fighting like the good fight, because really what that stuff comes down to is monetary stuff. They come in, or you see them for 5 minutes and you prescribe them the medication for XYZ. And this is not to say that no medication is ever warranted or nurse surgery is ever warranted, but those things are the drivers in our medical system, that the monetary benefits of prescribing those things, like they are what drives our medical economy. So anytime a physician is willing to have like a discussion and really tease out the options with people, that's what it's all about. And that's really hard because time is more and more limited, and people don't want to hear it. So I applaud her on that. And going back to, so people are and you guys know this, people are a product of their habits. Those habits usually are really just forms of beliefs that we've built. So, like, I think a lot about self-efficacy and, how do you get somebody to, like, take the wheel into their own hands? Like, the thing I always say, like, if I'm really doing my job well, I would put myself out of a job because I would teach the person how to figure it out from themselves. Mm-hmm. and then, which is a really shitty business model, because I don't want people to be dependent upon me, to get their life in order. Now, in that regard, then you have to look at yourself kind of like a guide or a teacher, which is how I very much try to approach my profession. And it's always just trying to build trust with that person. Pain's really, really tricky because, like, stuff hurts, and the hurt doesn't make you want to do things. But the problem is that a lot of times your body is kind of lying to you. We get into negative feedback loops, and like it's hard to get out of a negative feedback. Like, I'll be honest, I just use myself as an example. Like, at the end of this summer into this fall, I dealt with like serious anxiety and depression for the first time in my life. And it's crazy because if not for the habits that I already had established, like getting up and working out, like I knew I had to work out, but I felt like absolute crap, and I was tired, and my body ached. And if I would not have known that, like, the reason that my anxiety probably formulated like this is because I care a ton about my body and taking care of it. And the second part of that is, like, I know that on a lot of occasions, my body and my subconscious is, like, lying to me. It's trying to fool me into, like, not doing stuff even though I know I should. And a lot of people, they've been living with crap for so long that they don't think they can even change, and they don't think they're supposed to change. I think there's a meme on Instagram that I see. It's like an anxiety help, and it's like a picture of like a caterpillar and then a butterfly, and the caterpillar says to the butterfly, "You've changed," and the butterfly replies back, "We're supposed to."
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it's like, people just kind of don't think that they can change at a certain point. We just get rooted in our ways, and they also think that, like, pain is a part of life, but suffering I don't think has to be. So pain plus resistance equals suffering. And the thing I think about too is, like, a lot of times misery loves company. We like to bitch and moan about our problems, and then other people bitch and moan back, and then we feel like this is how it's supposed to be.
You get used to it, right? You get used to feeling a certain way, and then you think, oh, this is just me now. And it's amazing what we can adapt to, right? Yeah. Both positively and negatively. So you can, like, really adapt to just kind of, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but, you're just kind of like, oh, this pain is just how I feel now. And I'm used to it. I've navigated around it for X amount of time, and this is just how I live my life, right? I don't see any action, or I don't see any reason to take an action to solve this problem. Right, because I seem to be getting by just fine, And I think that's a lot of people's kind of shift at some point.
Well, and it's hard too because the other mantra that goes through my brain a lot lately is where attention goes, energy flows. So if your attention is directed at something positive, like, you're going to put more attention into it. Like your workout, like all three of us, you guys are probably like this. Like when you have a workout written on the board for that day, like, you're going to get it done, like, and you care about it. Right. And it's the same thing. Like if I wake up and if I didn't know any better and my low back was hurting, I'd be like, oh, what's wrong? It's like, well, you just probably slept weird. Your low back's a little irritated, like, get moving. But when people start to put that "what's wrong with me" narrative on the situation, then their energy keeps flowing towards what's wrong with me? Why does this hurt? And then that just builds the pain-brain connection of something's wrong with my back.
Right. It's like psychosomatic, right? It just kind of builds and it even increases the pain in a lot of ways because you're very acutely aware of it.
Exactly. So, we are our body like can take care of itself. I know that sounds like really cheesy, but like it's our conscious like fears and things like that put a lot of stress into us. Like your body knows when it has to pee, it knows when it has to poop, it knows what it can do generally. Like it knows when you're tired. And this is kind of subconscious stuff, but like you don't need to micromanage everything about your body. Now, should you exercise, sleep, eat well? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are
just be conscious of those things, or even just like conscious of your posture too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like, obviously, like, not obviously, but like if you have a desk job and you just sit in your chair for 7 hours and you don't get up and move, like that's not going to feel good,
I want to, yeah, absolutely not. And Dave is someone that is always like thinking about these things, right? Ever since I've known him, I've known Dave. How long have I known you? 4 years, 5 years?
I think 5.
Like
since
5
2016
years. Or so.
Yeah.
And when you're going to PT school, so I knew you when you were kind of in the throes of it, or towards the end, I suppose. And I worked at a building on campus, and I'd see you there every once in a while. And I remember one time you were coming up the stairs, and you had a posture like harness on.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. It's like one of those bow tie, Donnie Thompson bow ties.
Yeah, just kind of like organizes the spine. I think I've never had one on, but I remember that. But like, and that's the point of like, you're very like thoughtful about this stuff. And a lot of this stuff you've like, you kind of practice what you preach as well. And I think that's an important thing to like note is like, hey, well, even just in your own learning, right? It's a process.
Oh yeah.
Right. But anyway, sorry to sidetrack you there. I just had that memory pop up.
No.
So you're talking about beliefs around pain.
So let's tackle like that discussion really quick, because I think you bring up something there's a ton of narratives on how posture can be problematic. And that's not to say that like posture isn't important, but it's kind of more like there's no such thing as a bad posture. Like I'm sitting kind of hunched forward right now. Like it's not gonna hurt me. If I did this for 7 or 8 hours, yes. And it's there are a lot of practitioners that will be like, well, your posture is the problem, the source of your problems. And I think that's one of those things that like there's nuance in that, because posture doesn't necessarily cause pain, but posture can affect like, how you move a little bit, and if you like, you guys we'll just use the deadlift as an example. A lot of people will say like you should never round your back when you're lifting. That's like every worker's like training is like don't lift with a rounded back. Well, it's not really that you should never lift with a rounded back. It's like you shouldn't lift a load that you're not prepared to with a rounded back. Like you can train yourself to lift a load with a rounded back, and the overarching theme is too, like when you deadlift, your spine goes into flexion. Like unless it's super, super light, or you're super, super strong. But when you're lifting heavy, you go into some amount of flexion. It's not tons and tons, but like posture isn't the only thing, basically. And so
it's contextual, right?
Yes, exactly. And, like I think that the bow tie thing that I was wearing, like the postural brace, like it's a reminder, and it actually feels good because we do slump and we get into a terrible posture. Or not a terrible posture, but like a rounded shoulders forward thing, and you pull yourself back out of it, and you just feel good. And there's actually like in that posture, you produce like basically more feel good chemicals. Have you guys ever heard that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have my students. We talk about posture kind of in our first week, and we talk about context, and we should kind of know where our neutral is, right, and kind of how we change shape, and we're meant to like flex and extend and rotate. But I also say like, hey, there's like this, like just what you're saying, there's like this mental aspect of it too, of like, hey, like when I feel a little taller, a little bit bigger, I feel more confident, or I feel better, right? As a consequence too, right? It's all tied together.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it's your posture is a component of your input to your brain, right? And so when you're sitting up tall, and it might be just like that's the narrative of like a badass dude is like he sits up tall and proud, and then we just kind of follow that. Maybe,
but still,
But I mean, that's the weird thing. That's the cool thing about it is like we don't know why for a lot of this stuff, but there's things that seem to work. Is
it the chicken or the egg? Am I badass because I have good posture, or do I have good posture because I'm badass? You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
My wife and I, Amy, we've been doing this like nervous system like resets. I don't know if you ever heard of these, and there's like 4 or 5 different things. I'll see if I can remember them. It's the one is, one is posture, stand up, kind of roll your shoulders back, shake your fingers out, wiggle your toes, take 3 belly breaths. And then, what's crazy is my favorite one is keep your head still. And it's look side to side.
Yeah.
10 times. And you do that. You do all those right in a row. It takes 12 seconds. And you're kind of like, feel good, Yeah. It's just a simple little thing. Yeah.
And the question is like, it always becomes, I think that stuff is super valid. And I was very much into the logical part of being a physical therapist, like about probably 7 or 8 months ago. Like nothing works. What works is training, But then I've went through this anxiety and like emotional stuff, and I just got to the point where I experimented with everything, like cold showers, like laying down, listening to music. I meditate. I was doing that before, but I really have gotten into meditation because meditation is just learning to attend to the important things, right? But yeah, what you're just getting at is like the question always arises in my mind is like, well, am I doing this and it's making me feel good, or is it knowing that I'm doing it and it's supposed to make me feel good? But who the F cares?
Yeah, who cares? If there's a positive outcome,
exactly.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and that's the thing. Like, there's one that I've been doing, and you guys can test it out for yourself. If you're feeling a little anxious or just whatever, is just like rub on your ears, like just pull or tug on your ears or just stroke your ears. And I don't know if it's just that it's supposed to calm you down or if it does calm you down, but like it kind of helps me, So
yeah. Placebo or not, who cares, right? Exactly.
Well, and the biggest thing that all of this stuff is it's directed at our autonomic nervous system, right? Your fight or flight, your rest and digest stuff. And in our day and age, like even if you don't think you are, you're constantly on. We have constant access to all this crap. Our attention is super short, and it kind of puts us into like a higher anxiety state, even if you don't know it. And and then you're always what is Instagram? Instagram is just all the good crap, like everybody's most ideal situation of the day, posted, and then you're like
human highlight reel. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it can make you feel like crap if you're not aware of it. And so like you have to address that type of stuff. And it's funny, you kind of like shoulder roll, like your body wants to move, like, and the I one, I had seen a little bit of that because the I one is supposed to, I don't know exactly, but the I one moving side to side releases acetylcholine. And it's like you're moving forward in space and you're scanning the area. And if you're moving forward in space, you're not afraid of your environment. You're like interacting with it, which is why it's supposed to be like a dampener of your like your fight or flight type stuff, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Who the F knows? It sounds plausible, but we'll see.
We're kind of like a product of our base instincts, right? So like you're saying, in our culture now, we're getting a ton of external feedback. Like it's very constant, right? Even right now, we're obviously remote, but I can see you guys are moving, right? I have my own environment that I'm actually in, and all these other things, right, as well. And it's just always giving us information. It's a constant stream of it, which I think probably overshadows in a lot of ways our internal, mechanisms in and of themselves. So we have a harder time registering some of these, like whether it's emotions or physical, symptoms, pains, or even positive stuff too. Like we kind of miss that stuff just because we're always having to pay attention and be alert in our external environment. Which then goes back to meditation and maybe that powerful aspect of it of like, hey, I can talk to Cody, I can talk to Dave, I can talk to Ted, right? And just be here with myself.
Yeah.
I will say too, Dave, I hope you're, doing better, doing well with some of that anxiety, depression stuff, whatever it might be. It's tough. I've dealt with it a lot this year too. And I think we're all like, it sounds like you are and Cody is like, what was so frustrating almost dealing with that is I felt like I was being pretty proactive, and it's just, you feel like you are working out and you are, waking up early to do the right things and whatever it might be. And it still is going to come at times, but whatever that is, you have to just assess, and sometimes you're just going to have kind of crappy days too, where you do feel like crap, but then that brings us back kind of full circle to what you said earlier. Like, you almost just need to find a way to devote that energy somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're like, man, I'm feeling like shit, I'm depressed. Why am I so anxious right now? And you're like, instead of thinking about that, and I know it's hard and it's not easy. What do you have any advice for somebody? Like, what would be maybe a first step that they could do?
I think the big things that for me helped in the past like 4 months. I'm doing a lot better. I mean, so the first thing is, don't be afraid to talk about this crap to people around you, and it's definitely sometime in the hard part about it is like you either feel shame or guilt that you're having to have the discussion. But like, I mean, thank God for my wife. Thank God for my family. And like, cause it can be really scary. I've gone through stuff that I never thought I would go through, which is probably why I went through it. But, and I've learned a lot. Like I am I can be very, very hard on myself and very, very, I compare myself to other people constantly, which is the secret sauce to feeling like shit a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, if you want to feel exactly. Yeah.
So stop doing that to yourself. It's cliches are cliches for a reason. It's like you're not going to get anywhere trying to be another person, trying to be somebody that isn't you. So really embrace that kind of, quote unquote journey of just becoming who you are. Has helped a lot. And then also like, the process and the daily, the like for things my anxiety stems out of lack of control in a lot of ways. And 2020 was the year we all realized like we don't have control over Jack, and you kind of learn to be okay with that. And then you also just learn to control what you can control, which is the things you're going to do in a day to make yourself stay on the path that you want to head, right? And for me, that's kind of being motivated by a list of things to do, doing the normal things I, would do to stay healthy, but also like pursuing like the passions that you have. A lot of people, and that doesn't mean that you quit your job, but like if you love doing something and you don't know how, and you want to make it work, like figure out a way to at least head in that direction. So for me, that's like figuring out a way to maybe get a few more people that are like kind of more personal training, coaching type clients, because my work, and my wife's also a physical therapist. I mean, it's very much insurance dictated, and it's not a great way to practice because you're limited by time, and it's often constrained to what insurance will quote unquote pay for. And like it just doesn't allow you to build the best relationships you can with another human being. So you have to, like, the training and the coaching model fits better with what physical therapy actually should be, because I can't just give you a medication or I can't just do a surgery. So learning how to navigate that space has been really useful because it's given me like a sense of purpose. So, and then, I mean, like, don't be afraid to talk about it to people. Get help. I mean, I did therapy through like Talk, like one of the online services. It probably wasn't the most advantageous thing, but still, like, it was because I think you really have to take the time to find a good therapist. Mm-hmm. And I was just like trying to figure out how to solve it quickly. But I can like give a resource. Like there's a Patreon account, like the Anxiety Specialist, that he does tons of informational videos on anxiety and depression. And they really help me think about what this stuff actually is, which emotions are basically our autonomic nervous system directing us. Yeah. So, which in my mind, I always thought that I was in control of my thoughts. And then when you start having really shitty thoughts and they keep spiraling, you're like, whoa, I'm really not in control of this. And you're really not in control of your thoughts. Stuff just kind of pops up. For sure. And you either let it go or you dwell on it. Right. And learning to let it go is a huge win. So
absolutely. I want to add just a few things, and you definitely said it. I'm just kind of repeating and echoing it. And I think one thing when it comes to like talking to somebody, I think 90% of humans in general don't like to feel sorry for. Like, I don't want somebody to feel sorry for me. So if I'm struggling, thought is like, I don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? I don't want somebody to feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, it is tough to find that person. And some people, it is their significant other, and other people, maybe that's the last person they want to talk to, right? And then when you have to so there's a couple layers of this, right? So if you were going to go talk to a therapist, sometimes that admission of like, I'm really, really struggling is the second really hard step, right? Admitting that you're struggling enough that you have to seek professional help for it. But that professional help, that is their job to do. So they don't feel, they'll feel sorry for you because they're probably kind and caring people, but their goal in life
maybe
is
empathetic is a better word.
Yeah, empathetic. You're right. Much better word. But their goal in life is to do that for other individuals, right? That is what they're trying and aspiring to do. The second thing I just want to add to that is keep a list of easy wins. Find yourself some easy wins. And it might be something like, all right, I'm going to unpack the dishwasher. Okay, I'm going to, put my shoes that are on the floor in the closet. And like, sometimes you just got to get the train on the tracks to start it and get it moving. And I know that when you're, and I've had, a couple anxiety, attacks too, where it's like, I'm not really sure what's going to happen next. I'm starting to, and you just have to like fight through. And it's so much easier said than done. And so that's just my one little thing that I want to echo to people out there. If you're listening to this and you're dealing with shit, which a lot of people are right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
And it's unfortunate. Like mental. So the way I kind of I've always viewed my job is like, I really am a counselor, but like I'm helping you navigate your bodily pains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going through like, and I've always probably been anxious and like to some extent obsessive compulsive, like I'll think about lifting weights or I think we all have kind of our thing. We just don't identify it. Because like if I missed a workout, I'd feel like I'd talk crap to myself for the next day, or if I ate weird, I'd talk crap to myself. And it's like, you're just living, like just live, try to make the best of it, and then embrace. So I think what got me there, like COVID was a big part of it, but what I was doing over the summer was I was going into older people's homes and doing physical therapy with them. So
we should say you were traveling, like you were traveling PT for a while.
Yeah. So we had moved around 4 times in the last 2 years, which is a recipe for a lot of change.
Stress. Yeah.
And then I was going into older folks' homes and keeping them moving. Well, a lot of these people had been isolated and were frankly anxious, depressed out of their life, had come to a halt. Some of these folks are dealing with things like dementia, like the onset or the increase in symptoms that you would associate with dementia, like drastically increase when people become isolated. Like when they have people around them to keep them like engaged and stuff. Like I personally see that process slowing down, but once that person becomes more isolated, things really become difficult. And I was seeing some of that, and I'm pretty empathetic, or at least I was just really scared, and I started to picture myself like this is what life looks like, and that's a dark place, it's a hard place, and like you said, Ted, like you start to the little negatives start to compile. And so if without the little wins and that you're actually, and the other thing is like I don't accept compliments very well. And I don't like appreciate the little things very well. And like the not accepting compliments is like me basically telling myself it's never good enough. Yeah. And I've gotten a lot better at that. I'm working on that. But then they also like, the classic, like make your bed, cross that off, unpack the dishwasher, cross that off, like make those practices like a little meditation, and make them that habit starts to build. And it's not like the things that are going to have the big changes are a drop in the bucket, but you just keep doing that drop in the bucket. And, that's everything. So yeah, anybody who has gone through, depression, anxiety, it's such a difficult road. and a lot of people like are both dealing with it, and they might not even know they're dealing with it. But then there are a lot of things that I think are physical symptoms. Like, have you guys ever heard of like chronic fatigue, like chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's very much anxiety mediated. You feel like crap. You don't know why you feel like crap. You keep worrying about feeling like crap. You continue to feel like crap, you know, and then it's like this thing that you got to get out of your brain, and you just got to go. But it's really hard to do. Like, you know, anxiety is this thing that it's this thought loop that you want to put down, but you don't know how because it just keeps coming back.
For sure. Momentum is a powerful thing. Like I said, both ways, right? Like easy wins, you can start to create some momentum the right way. And if you have a shitty thought, it's kind of like, and then it just piles onto another shitty thought. And you're like, oh, it's because of this. And I'm this because of this. And you start beating yourself up. Yeah. And it just turns into just something that you can't stop, right? And so until you get those easy wins, I think it's hard to fire back and find something cool. Yeah. I want to get back to something you said earlier in the show, but I do think this is some powerful stuff that we're talking about here. You're talking about how, you know, for you, when you're working with a client or whoever you might be working with, you know, you want to build trust, you want to educate them a little bit. And I think it is really a powerful tool to fully understand something. I think, and I struggle with this when I was in college, high school, my own learning process. You'd learn it enough to pass a test, right? You'd learn it enough to repeat it back to somebody if you needed to. But if you learn something, and you said this earlier, Dave, to try to teach somebody, you learn it from a full another level. What are some things that you try to do with your clients, or can you give us an example of something that you would like to put out there for either like a specific client or maybe an overarching theory?
Gotcha. I think the few big things that I try to focus on whenever I'm working with somebody is like, it's really not about what I want to do with them. You know, like I want them to get stronger. I want them to get healthier. I want them to not be in pain. So it's like really teasing into the direction they want to head. And this is tricky in like the classic physical therapy model, because a lot of times they're just there because they've been told to be there by somebody else.
Like you said earlier, yeah.
But so that's where the relationship starts. Like you got to make them want to be there, you know, that you got to show them the value of what you're doing. And that can be tricky. And it usually comes like just by establishing like trust and figuring out what motivates them. Not being in pain is a good motivator, but like it's not the greatest of motivators, because people, like Cody said earlier, like you both said earlier, people will put up with a lot of crap. So the things that I always just go to try to, because it really is teaching, you know, when you get a little bit more of an understanding, like we're all on the same path. Some of us are just 15 years ahead. Some of us are a little behind. It doesn't really matter. But just getting them to like buy into like something very simple or see the benefit of something simple. So a lot of times when I see, I'll use this as a classic example. It's like people with low back pain, for some reason, don't think they should move at all. Like, you know, like everything's bad. It all hurts. And it's probably like, they say I'm in a 10 out of 10 pain constantly. Well, the truth of it isn't, because if you can focus enough to drive here, like you weren't in massive amounts of pain. Like it sucks. And don't get me wrong, it's an experience that sucks. But like what you do is you talk to them. Like, you know, for me, a lot of it comes back to like, I show them that they can hinge like and squat, even if it's to a chair or to a box without a whole lot of pain. Or I find like a rotational movement that feels good. And that, like, you put them on a bike and you say like biking is a good gateway to just getting yourself moving again. Like, you know, and let's just do this as like 5 to 10 minutes here for a warm up, and then I'll go show you the next step. And when you present yourself as the guide and you show them like, okay, you know, you said your pain was 7 out of 10. Like, how does it feel right now? And like they've gone to the process of like, they see that they can move a little bit better, or you show them that like. One thing that I think you guys can probably do and integrate too is like with people who are having shoulder pain, just have them try to reach forward with like their posture in a terrible place, and then have them like posture up, like, present themselves with a big proud chest and see how much more shoulder range of motion they have, because it's going to increase and it's going to feel better to move. And then that just shows them that like there are things you can do to modify this experience. And when you do that, then they start to buy into the fact that like, oh, I can have a positive effect on this outcome.
They can control for a second, right?
Yeah, because you're trying to take the locus of control from an external thing, like I can't control my pain, to, okay, at least there's little things that I can do. And I say this a lot but I think it's super useful. It's like there's two big ones. Like, nobody cares how much you know until you show them how much you care. So if you show them like that you're willing to go out of your way to help them or figure out their problem or just listen. I like to talk, which is a big barrier to me being a really good listener. So I'm really working on my active listening. And then the other big piece of it is like, people don't care what you say to them. They care about how you make them feel. So,
for sure. Theodore Roosevelt quote, by the way.
Is that a Theo? I thought it was a Maya Angelou, but either way.
Yeah, I think it's Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay. So, I mean, those are both super useful in the context of like, how do I put this person on a little bit better path? Because I can't do it for them, but I can help them. I can help them realize that they can do it themselves. Yeah,
this leads me into, actually, I had one question. I know Cody probably has a question here yet too. I had one more question. So this is a perfect segue. So, you as a PT, right? So say this is your opportunity, Dave. Somebody's out there. They are in need of PT. They maybe have pain. They need whatever it might be. I guess you can be as specific with that as you want. When you first meet with somebody, you have all these things that you're trying to accomplish, right? You're there for them, right? You want to help them feel better, get out of pain, whatever it might be. But as we know, every job is a sales job, right? You're selling yourself, you're selling your product, you're trying to show value in what you have. As you mentioned, you're trying to teach them something to better their life, because if they see you for 4 hours a week, that's a lot of hours that they don't see you, right? And so they need to do more than just see you and be around you. And you also need to make that connection, like you said. Like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. How do you accomplish all that in a session where you first sit down and meet with somebody? Or can you can answer that, or maybe this helps to answer the question too. What does that look like? So if somebody wants to jump in with Dave, how do they do that, and what does that look like?
I mean, the big things that I try to do in the first session. So in school, they teach you all sorts of tests and stuff to try to do to figure out the root cause,
Yeah.
The tests are, in my opinion, most of the time just crap, because they don't really tell us as much. Like, the biggest like test is like asking them to replicate their pain by doing the movement that replicates it. It's pretty much the most useful one. Then you have to discern as a therapist like what you think might be causing it. But in a first session with me, like I tend to try to just listen to people for like 30 minutes, like just ask them questions and let them tell me like, what they perceive their problem to be, what things they've tried, and then what are their goals. If they're into that as like they have, if they have more goals than just getting out of pain, that's awesome, because you can use those goals as kind of an alleyway around the pain, or, you show them the little things. And then people always want to know like what the projected outcome is. Like, people want to know that they basically have a good prognosis if it seems pretty good. If a prognosis doesn't seem good for, like, basically everyone can benefit. Everybody who's not benefiting from like physical activity, which unfortunately is a lot of the people I see, they're not doing any type of structured physical activity. Like, that's step one. Like, let's figure out what you can do to put you on a path to better health. Let's change your ecosystem. And then step two is if you are doing something specific and you notice pain with, clean and jerks or snatch or squatting is hard, or then we start to really dig into your mechanics of those movements, because the mechanics and then the loading, what's that look like? How can we adjust? Did you go really heavy after you had taken a layoff, or, and that type of stuff. And then, then it's try to lay out the landscape of the plan, and because that's ultimately like people want, when you ask a question or you want a product, it's like, how long is this going to take? What's the expected outcome? Those are kind of tough in the context of pain because everybody's experience is a little different.
Sure.
But it's the same with like weight loss or getting strong, quote unquote strong, whatever you perceive it to be. It's going to take as long as it takes, as long as like you're willing to keep working on the plan and keep going in that direction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, there is no secret sauce, right? Again, we've established that. And what's funny too is like, I think I've told kind of maybe a version of this story to Cody before. And it's, I don't know. I'm not the strongest dude in the world, but I feel like at times, to have somebody who joins the gym, when I owned a gym, and they might be like, "Wow, dude, you're strong," and I'm like, how'd you get so strong? And I'm just, for me, it's again, I suck at taking compliments. Somebody's trying to give me a compliment, right? Same thing you were saying too, but the response I want to give them is, 10 years, I don't know, 15 years, that's I don't know. But do I think I'm strong? No, it's how it is. But I think, Cody, what else you got? Cody,
well, I wanted to
keep jumping on Cody.
How dare you? I'm gonna have to talk to you after this podcast. But I wanted to, because like I feel like we got to know Dave really well as like a PT, a physical therapist. But I want to talk about. I know Dave is a very passionate lifter himself, so I want to talk a little bit about strength training and how it's going for you, Dave, and kind of what you're working on right now.
So like my wife will tell you, like the only thing I've really wanted in life in the last like 5 years is just to have my own garage gym. So we're making that a reality. I ordered a Rogue R3 rack from Rogue and a bar. And I'm starting to put my platform. I had an old platform in my parents' garage, so the platform's gonna go in my garage, and then we'll put up the Rogue. It's gonna take like another 2 weeks for my rack to get here, which I'm like a kid on Christmas.
It's like Christmas.
Checking.
I know.
Yeah. Tracking number every day.
And people
how many reviews and research did you do before you settled on the rack that you wanted?
So I got an R3, which is like their basic power rack. Yeah. It's their economy one. I thought about going with somebody else, like a Rep. There's some good. Some good companies out there.
Titan out there.
Yeah, Rogue's just like they're the biggest. They're like we all came from CrossFitting, and like Rogue's like the CrossFit OG for equipment. So and my wife also, like, I'm a cheapskate, but my wife will say like get what you want. And the R3, I have a buddy that's in St. Louis that he's got a gym with he's got 8 platforms with an R3 rack on it. And he's just like, it's just the best bang for your buck. Because you could even put it in the middle of the platform. You could get some like safety bars, and then you could basically have 2 people squatting on both sides. Like you could, if I'm because I'm looking to start training some folks in person. He's like, you could basically make an economy setup where you have 2 stations in one, which would be sweet. So.
Fort Collins CrossFit had 2 R3 racks. Do you remember those, Cody? Right when you'd walk in, there's 2 squat racks, kind of right to the left. Those are both R3s. We love them. They're great.
They're like the best bang for your buck as far as like power rack and like for
heavy duty, but not a lot of space.
Yeah. So, I've done a lot of research. I mean, I've been looking for 3 years basically, so I'm just glad I gotta pull the trigger.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah,
that is super exciting.
Yeah. So, and then from there, I mean, my goals are pretty much to get back into like structured, like squat, bench, press, deadlifts, whatever else stuff I think is fun.
Because you've been traveling for so long, it's probably hard to get into a routine.
Yeah, and we were in California where gyms were closed, and then I don't want to let like money ever come in the way of like fitness type stuff, but sometimes just like going to a really expensive gym like intermittently isn't always the best option. So so I'm excited to, and I'm also back into more of a steady job, so like the financial stuff isn't really a concern as much right now, so which is good. And then so doing that stuff. I ride bikes a lot. I'm going to get I'm taking a continuing education course next month in May actually for like bike fitting and common injuries in bikers, which is super cool.
Oh, super cool. Yeah.
So, and then
just in time for egg bry.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, looking to just build something cool, however it goes, whatever direction it goes.
Dave, you could set up a practice, on the side of the road. You could just follow the ragbri route.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I know you guys all have some issues going on probably in some way or the other. Or you could, I know Ted's thinking about going. You could catch him. I'm sure he'll be sweating something out. I don't think you're not a bike rider.
I'm not. My biggest issue would be, why are you so sunburned and so hungover?
Which is most people's problem. Yeah. That's probably the biggest complaint. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool, Dave. Good luck with the home gym, man. I feel very fortunate too. When we made the move, I kind of had it it was a deal breaker for me too. I was like, I'm going to have a home gym. I just need it. I need access to that stuff. And it's fun because you do a lot of budgeting. You do a lot of different things that, you're trying to set up, like, oh, I want this, I want that. You build some stuff, you buy some stuff, and you kind of just can make it exactly what you want it to be. And then you reorganize the garage, you move things different. It's just fun to play around with and have that space. So that's cool, man. Let's do this. We're gonna get into our 10 quick Q&As. We do this at the end of every show. But before we do that, how do people reach out to you, Dave, if they want to reach out for PT? Or you said you've been doing some cool things on Instagram. Something you talked about grabbing people's attention, teaching them a little bit. How can people reach out to you?
So my Instagram handle is at prescription_strength. It's basically just me putting out informational stuff. Pretty easy to digest. This isn't for therapists. It's for people who are wanting to get into strength training and want to learn a little bit about kind of self-rehab, self performance, and then just getting beginners to or getting people to start strength training. I also I'm doing some consulting through that. I can help people with injuries, kind of on a case-by-case basis. So just, you can reach out to me. Working on kind of starting like a little bit of a service in regards to like therapy through that. So that's my big one right now.
Your Instagram is great. I want to say that. It's a great follow.
I thought it was really, that's exactly what so Cody sent, I didn't have you on Instagram. Cody sent it to me. I was like, this is awesome. This is great.
Well, I appreciate it.
I also, it does well. And it's something that Cody and I don't feel like we're very good at it, our Instagram, but we try our best.
I'm on you guys know like the Jerry Seinfeld method, like just post something, or just so Jerry Seinfeld wrote a joke every day. Like,
yeah.
So, and really Instagram's about the simplest message you can put out with either a meme or a good picture, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really my formula right now. It's not even that productive. Like, I'm working on getting better at it to like attract people, but it's kind of a creative outlet for me, which is fun which is cool. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, but I appreciate that. I like your guys' stuff too. I mean, I think don't be so hard on yourself because most of it.
So you're trying to give us a compliment.
Well,
we're not taking it. We're trying to give you a compliment.
Well, most of what sells on Instagram is just butts or skin. So you could just start doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody. Maybe I'll think about it. I'll
so there you go. And again, the Instagram was prescription_strength. When we first jumped on before we started recording, I told you how awesome of a just handle that was too. So prescription_strength. All right, we're gonna kick off these quick 10 Q&As. Cody's got the first one. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, super easy. Money's no issue. What's your dream car, or let's say vehicle, just so like if you wanted a semi or something.
I would probably say like a Super Sport El Camino black. I think I don't know what year, like late 70s or early 80s, like one of the boxier ones.
Okay, yeah. I like an El Camino.
So I'm a 68 El Camino. That's my favorite. So it's got dual headlights. So it's got the two big dual headlights.
I like that. Yeah.
I think it's 66 to 71.
I would say that, or I will say a Toyota Land Cruiser, like a late 80s Toyota Land Cruiser.
Oh yeah, just a freaking tank on the road. Yeah. All right, number 2. What's the favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Edinburgh, Scotland. Friggin' cool place. It's like you feel like you're back in time 200 years or more.
Build me the perfect sandwich from your perspective?
Perfect sandwich. Let's go like 12 grain bread, mustard, bunch of ham, bacon, cheese, piece of lettuce, and that's it. And then
just one piece of lettuce?
Yeah, just one piece of lettuce.
Okay.
What type of cheese are we working with here, Dave?
Let's go American.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I don't even know. It's a good
All right,
question.
Question number.
Go ahead, Ted. Never mind.
Sorry.
This is that's not a fair question.
Toasted. Yeah,
are you toasting that bread?
Toasting it, yeah. With butter.
Oh, yeah. Kerrygold Irish butter
Yeah.
is where it's at. All right, we're following that sandwich up with a piece of pie. What's your favorite piece of pie?
Pumpkin. Yeah.
Pumpkin. Cody, what's your favorite piece of pie?
I don't know. I've never.
God damn it, Cody.
Sorry, I just ruined it. I don't know. I never really put too much thought into it. My bad. I'll think about it. Ask me next podcast.
Okay, we'll give you 2 weeks to come up with a favorite piece.
Yeah, you need to give me that like pre-podcast questions there. So we got pumpkin pie. Do you have a current favorite like workout song that really like jazzes you up? It gives you some groovy vibes.
I've been listening to Michael Kiwanuka.
Yeah, you sent him to me the other day.
Did you start listening to him?
Yeah, I listened to him when I was working out.
So Rolling by Michael Kiwanuka is a really good song.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
Write it down.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now. What's your idea of a fun weekend activity? Maybe with the wife, with your, just give me an idea of what's Dave like to do for fun other than PT stuff, other than working out, other than training?
Me and my wife have started to like enjoy bike riding, kind of just like, and we're really excited to like bike ride and go sit on patios and have a beer, do that type of thing.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big one. We honestly like road trips. That was one of the cool parts about traveling is we just jump in the car and go somewhere during the day, and kind of explore. So we'll get into that a little bit more too as COVID settles down, where we just get in the car and drive and go someplace fun and have an adventure.
I know you're a new and welcome, by the way, a new puzzler.
Yeah.
Got your first puzzle in the other week. Do you feel like you're going to continue that hobby?
Yeah, I think it's a good form of kind of quasi meditation.
Yeah.
So we bought these Star Wars ones, and the pieces are super janky. Like they're just weird pieces. So I kind of hate that because I feel like a piece should be like a normal structure, where these are like random cuts. But I'm definitely gonna continue it. I think it's kind of a fun thing to just have out, and then you just like do it for 5 minutes. Yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
That's what Julie and I do. We just have one out on like the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And, if it takes us a week to do it, it takes us a month to do it. We just kind of like piece it together. It's kind of like a nice mental break in between stuff too. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, send me any good puzzles that you have.
All right, I will. You want that Spider-Man one? You can have that Spider-Man one.
We could do like a puzzle exchange.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
We'll talk later about it.
All right.
Go ahead, Ted.
No puzzles at my house. I have a 8-month-old who'll just eat them, eat the pieces. She eats anything she can get her hands on. It's in her mouth. What's your most used cell phone app on your phone?
Oh,
this might be embarrassing.
It's unfortunately Instagram. I need to just be done with it. And I'm trying to rein it in. I actually deleted it from like my home screen so that I have to like go through the apps to get to it. But
find it. Yeah.
It's just it's something that I'm like trying to work on and like get a little bit better at to get some get clients. So
for sure.
But
it is interesting how like these apps, like when I first got Instagram, it was primarily like educational for the business, and then you start following. It's a whirlwind, right?
There's a great who's the Mike Israetel? You guys know Mike Israetel?
Is he RP strength?
Yeah. He posted a great one where it was like the meme that was like angry and crying, looking at like Instagram's logo with like a gelatinous mob behind it, and he's like, "You ruined my life," and the mob says back to it like, "I'm literally all the things that you just want and desire." Like it's just the algorithm behind it, and it's so true because it's just projecting. It's like a mirror projecting back what you want. So,
So in an alternate universe, and physical therapist didn't exist, what would you do as a career choice? What was your path?
Good question. Gosh.
What's the first thing you thought of? Pro surfer, hypnotist. What do you think?
At this stage, I'd probably go into some type of engineering. I think it'd be cool to be like a mechanical engineer or something like that.
All right. Well, my girlfriend Julia, she has a family of engineers. So, if you need any advice or tips, I can hook you up.
Sounds good. Love it.
If you were given an extra hour of free time during the day, how'd you spend it, Dave?
Oh gosh.
Now, if you say Instagram, then we have a problem. No,
Yeah, right. Probably
Truth
watching.
be told, it was probably Instagram for me too.
Yeah,
just,
right.
Just to make you feel better.
I watched Avengers, Infinity Wars, and Endgame this weekend actually, and I haven't watched a movie in like a movie like that in a while. It would probably be dedicated to watching like a Marvel movie on a daily basis.
I dig it.
That's a great answer.
They're just so good, and like
they are good.
It's just
have you watched the Disney Plus ones?
Yeah, so we have Disney Plus. I was looking for the newest Spider-Man, but it's not on Disney Plus. So
well, have you watched the Winter Soldier and
oh no, I haven't gotten into those yet.
Falcon and
are they good? I'm sure they're good.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I would recommend those.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get into that.
What Avenger would you be if you were an Avenger?
I would like to say that I would be Tony Stark, but I'd probably be Captain America because my superpower is probably leadership, more than anything else. So.
All right. Ted, what about you?
Superhero? Oh,
yeah,
man.
Of the Avengers.
I don't know.
Who would you want to be then?
Who would I want to be? I do really dig Captain America in a way. I think, I don't know. I dig Thor.
Yeah, Thor's pretty awesome.
Thor.
Cody, who would you be?
I would want to be Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
That's just even the title in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a great name.
But
I could see Cody as no, you need to tell me yours first before
I'd probably be Hawkeye for sure. Just slinging arrows, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I get pissed off and go vigilante at some point.
Yeah.
And then Ted would have to talk me down and pull me back into the fold. I could see that happening.
I was gonna say Vision for Cody.
Yeah.
He's got the same hairline.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's a pretty smart, analytical, driven dude, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I would go Vision. I think, or you could be Bruce Banner. Maybe not the Hulk, but.
Well, I was gonna say I struggle with emotion as well, so that kind of goes with the computer-based vision as well. Yes, so I get it.
I see that.
Last one. So, one tip you would give to someone who is already working out but has a hard time staying on track towards their goals. What would you tell that person?
Focus on one thing. For me, why I got into more strength stuff as opposed to CrossFit was because my real goals in CrossFit were to get stronger, but it's not to say you can't do any conditioning ever or anything like that. But if your goal is to get strong, 95% of your energy should be dictated towards the big movements, and then you do 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of cardio a couple times a week, so. What we try to do in a lot of things is spread our energy too thin. And if you're not Matt Fraser or you're not a high-level CrossFit athlete, you shouldn't be training, 30 hours a week because your money's not going to come from this. You should be focused on what you can get done in, 6 to 8 hours a week. So focus on one thing. If it's weight loss, focus on your diet. Let your exercise just be whatever it can be. If you're focused on getting stronger, focus on learning to squat well, learning to press, learning to deadlift. And if your focus is on CrossFit, then do CrossFit, figure out the stuff you suck at and work on that, But I will say my big thing is for most CrossFit athletes, when they get stronger and they improve their technique, everything else gets better. When you can deadlift 405 pounds, 135 pounds cleans are nothing, and yes, it might take you 2 weeks to get your cardio back, quote unquote, but you being stronger is just a huge advantage in that arena. So,
well, yeah,
strength is never a weakness. Final cliche.
Yes, exactly.
There you go. Doctor of Physical Therapy, Dave Hagerty. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks. This has been super fun.
And Cody and I will be right back with our final segment. All right, here we go. Cool down question. Feel free to send us a question, info@practicalwellnesscoach.com, if you want your question featured on Practical Wellness Radio. Today we had a question. Someone was asking, and they wanted us to compare what it was like working out. A lot of people during the pandemic, during quarantine, and maybe even still are kind of working out by themselves, right? And that might be in their garage gym, if they're fortunate enough to have it, in their basement if they have any equipment, or doing body weight. And that might even include, if we are now, things are starting to open up, get back into a gym, but that might still include somebody who's working out by themselves, in a gym with their headphones on, head down, grinding it out, versus the opposite being somebody who is maybe attending a gym in a large group setting, or even somebody who's going to a gym with a buddy and have a training partner, almost every single day. So there's definitely going to be pros and cons for both sides. But when you first hear that, Cody, let's actually start with maybe what do you typically fall into as far as those two categories? Mm-hmm. And give me a pros and cons maybe. And let's start with whatever one you fall into.
Yeah, I definitely fall into the solo category. And I've wondered why in the past. And I think part of it is not to get complex here, but I'm not an only child, but I grew up as an only child. So I think I'm pretty comfortable being by myself and being kind of left to my own devices and being able to function in that capacity. So I think that is part of it. And that's kind of what I prefer, is just kind of being in the gym by myself. I get to control the tunes on the radio and kind of move at my own pace. And I think that's a big pro for me, right? Just kind of letting it be a meditative experience. I can just kind of decompress a little bit from maybe coaching, if I've coached a lot that day in particular, or just kind of a time to think and, contemplate life, I suppose. Right. And I'll say that I'm an introvert. So it expends a lot of energy for me to kind of coach and be in a group setting and to lead. So it's kind of my time to unwind and relax a little bit. So that's kind of the big pro for me. But it can be hard being by yourself all the time in that setting. It's maybe hard to push yourself, especially on, the days that we just don't have it in us, or even giving ourselves some accountability as well that we might get with others around us. What's your preference, Ted?
Yeah, I don't. This is really tough for me, to be honest, because I do really enjoy both. I really do. For a lot of the same reasons, when you're talking about working out by yourself, for me, it is very therapeutic, and it's an excuse to be, I'm trying to put this in trying to find the right words, which I'm not very good at, but trying to find, it's a good opportunity for me to be selfish, in a non-negative way. Right. And I can listen to, like you said, whatever music you want. And I actually feel like I am pretty, I like all types of music. So it's not even that, but I just prefer to, at times, be able to listen to hard rock, or listen to country music, or listen to, gangster rap when I'm working out. And I don't want to have to answer to anybody and have to give a reason why, right? It just, because it fits and I like this song. And I might follow up a country song with 60 beats per minute, and the next song might be a hard rock song with 180 beats per minute, and it's just, I like the song. I don't need it to fit into a certain category. And I've obviously gone off on a tangent when it comes to music, but
well, play those sad songs, Ted. Play those sad songs. I find that sad songs make me so much stronger. I can just really release that sad energy that I have been inside me and just throw some weights around.
There you go. Maybe that's the key. Maybe we're all listening to too happy music.
A tear is going down my face as I'm pulling some weight.
Find some more sad, emo, country, whatever it is.
Give it a shot. You might be surprised.
So obviously we maybe didn't intend on this music tangent, but that's just an example. And another one might be too is, I think I hate to admit this at times, but I'm kind of a grass is greener guy too, and I try to avoid that. So when I came from a gym where I was coaching all day long, being around people all day long, it was very, very therapeutic for me to be able to work out by myself and kind of do what I wanted. Sometimes when you coach a class all day long, you the last thing, say you've been coaching rowing and pull-ups and deadlifts all day long. Finally, you're like, the last thing I want to do is think about, or do any deadlifts,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I want to do something else, and I want to do my own thing. And cause then it kind of, and as lucky as I think we are to have careers in this fitness industry, the example might be somebody who, is a sous chef for a living, and then they have to go home and make food for their family. It's you kind of like, you want the opportunity to have your fitness experience mimic the fitness experience of other people's in the therapeutic sense, right? I need to work out because it makes me feel better. And now fast forward to like maybe a little bit more kind of like secluded lifestyle that we're kind of currently and still living in. I've been working out by myself for over a year now, like just myself. I haven't worked out with anybody, maybe like once or twice with my wife, and
your daughter's there sometimes.
Yeah, she's there bouncing around, but I desperately miss the social aspect of working out. Like, I really enjoy being able to shoot the shit with somebody and, in between sets, lift, whatever it is, condition, high five, whatever afterwards, so those are some pros, those are some cons. Like I said, it's tough for me to nail down. So if we're talking about right now, I miss the opportunity to work out in a group setting.
Right. Grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah. And like I said, sometimes I hate to admit to be that person, but I am,
that's okay. Right. Because there's positives to both. And as someone that definitely prefers, given the choice to be kind of solo and to kind of use that time for myself and be selfish, I definitely find group classes to be energizing, right? And really beneficial in that way. It's just not my preference. So I absolutely see that as well. And I think you hit the nail on the head too, is, if you're coaching 7 classes a day, which I know you had done, especially in Colorado, and where I don't do as much anymore, but I still can get to 7, certainly once or twice a week. I'm done with the social interactions at that point. Either I'm done and I'm done for the day, I'm going to work out, or I need the hour as kind of a buffer to get my energy back up and to kind of just step away and not talk about fitness with someone anymore, and just let me work on my own fitness as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of why, I make a bunch of analogies all the time. I don't know if any of them really land, but that's kind of what I was trying to say with the sous chef, right? The guy who, if you do something all day long, the last thing you want to do when you get home from work is to do more of that same thing.
Right.
You want to find an opportunity to de-stress, separate yourself from your work, separate yourself from whatever.
Yeah, separation from work and recreation, or professional and even home life, or whatever.
And that doesn't,
case may be.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that the sous chef hates his job, or that you and I weren't fortunate for any opportunity that we had in this fitness industry. It just means that work is always work, and it just is. And so, as much as we love it, it's a good opportunity to sneak into your garage if you want to be by yourself, and, lights on, lights off, whatever it is. Sometimes it's like, I would work out in the gym at Fort Collins, in between classes, and sometimes I would even just shut the lights off, and we'd have enough natural light that kind of funnels in, and it just kind of even almost felt like a different setting. I shut the lights off, I listen to different music, and I work out. And
or not any music. I've done that where I'm just I can't do any more music today.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to pull a deadlift and sit outside in the sun for 2 minutes, just relax.
And you appreciate it. Yeah. So you just appreciated the different setting. And so as far as again, bringing it back to the question of, maybe what we prefer, or just offering up some pros and cons to a solo, maybe quarantined life, or solo by choice workout versus a a partner with you or a group training, what are some cons, Cody, as somebody who does appreciate working out by themselves at times to being the solo dude in the gym?
Like, what's the cons to that?
Yeah, for you.
Well, it depends on the person. For me, there's not many outside of maybe, and I don't miss workouts, so that's not an issue for me. I might not be as energized, and I tell my clients this all the time. Like, especially if they're having trouble getting workouts in on their own for the remote clients, I'm like, hey, there's rarely a day where I don't try to talk myself out of a workout. You know, there's rarely a day, but there's never a day. In a way, right? There's never a day that I don't do the workout that I intend to do. You know what I mean? So there is that. And since I have it such ingrained into my system as like a habit to go and do regardless, I'm a little bit bulletproof in that sense. But for a lot of people that don't have this ingrained into their routines, or maybe, and I'll even say this, I'm very fortunate to be able to work in a gym. So this is a big plus for me, or coach full time. It's pretty easy for me to do it because I'm there, right?
For sure.
Whether that's in the gym setting or in my home gym in my garage, I'm there. So that is very accessible to me. So there is certainly that as well, but not everyone has that. So I think a con would be to not have that accountability outside of yourself, right? It's easier to say, hey, I'm not going to show up today. But especially if you've been consistent in a group class, you've made some relationships, you're going to have that social tie to going.
Group accountability for sure.
Right. So I think that's a con with kind of being by yourself. Right. So, or even lack of direction in some ways as well, especially if you don't have someone programming for you, that can be another issue too.
That was my next question is, how often, give me a percentage, like when you walk into the gym, start to finish, right? So let's say you're like, I've got an hour, I'm going to go work out. What percentage of the time do you already know before you step foot into the gym what you're going to do?
100% of the time.
Start 100% of the time.
Yeah. 100%.
That's good. That's cool. You're like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to accomplish.
And that's especially like my, and I know like the day before or a week before, it kind of depends, but, or at the very minimum. So for example, even today, so today was supposed to be a rest day, but I wanted to work on some skill-based stuff. I had an intention of what I wanted to do, but I, made some adjustments as I went. I added some things in. I thought better of some other things just because I already have what I'm going to do tomorrow and the next day. So I thought better of some things to kind of allocate some energy for later on this week. But I always have an intention, if not a full plan.
That's good. See, I think I don't want to say I'm the opposite, but I'm probably 50-50. Like, 50% of the time I walk into the gym and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I got to do it all, start to finish. And then boom, I did it. The other 50% of the time, I'm like, I need to work out. I have an opportunity. And some of it is just time constraints too, where you're like, oh my gosh, now's my chance. I need to go work out, right? Like whatever.
Yeah. And your life is a little different than mine, where you have 2 kids.
Yeah. I finished everything I need to do on my computer. I've got a little bit of time, the nanny's here. I can go sneak out in the garage and work out. And so as I'm out there, I start warming up and I'm like, I haven't done this in a while. And then you write it down and you do it, right? Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably a whole nother topic, but I do really enjoy kind of the freedoms of that too. I do kind of have a structure of things that I follow on a weekly basis. And I got to the point where I was having too much of a hard time to get. So I was originally, let's take a step back. I was originally following a program. The program was, programmed at 5 to 6 days a week. And it was too much for me to accomplish in a week. I just didn't have an opportunity to get it all done. Time. So then I kind of just fell back on, I was following a program that it was just as you go. Like I could just accomplish it as I go. There was no real start. There was real no finish. It wasn't like you're going to get left behind if you missed a day. You just punch it out as you go. And so that's allowed me to really have some freedoms to adjust workouts to maybe my weaknesses, to maybe my strengths sometimes too, that makes it a little bit more fun. And I've enjoyed that. Like I said, that might be another different topic, but I it's working for me at the moment. And again, I will probably at some point change it up, because I hate to admit it, but I am a grass is greener guy, and I might be able to find an opportunity to work out a little bit more regularly, and then I'll up it. And in the meantime, I just know that I need to work out. I need to stay fit. I need to continue to work on my fitness and health and everything that's included, because it's kind of, for me, it's, we use this analogy, I think maybe on a previous podcast too, where it's like working out is an exercise, hence the definition exercise, right? But it's like a reading exercise, or it's like a learning exercise, or it's like, it's a discipline, right? And so when we're talking about whether it's group or one-on-one or by yourself, like some people love to read and they just need to crack a book open every day, right? And other people know that reading is really important for them and they should try to read. And then you have some people who are in a book club who want to be part of a social atmosphere, and they kind of halfway read a book so they can talk about it with their friends, right?
Right.
And so when you're talking about working out, whether you're working out in a group and you're part of a book club, that's the analogy, right? Or if you sit at home and you crack a book before you go to bed or go to work or whatever it is, or if you need to go to the coffee shop to read a book and to get away from your other life, like, it's just kind of what it is to you and what you essentially need, right?
Yeah, what works best for you and what's going to allow you to be successful, and where are you at on your journey too? And I think that's something that we could touch on is, you and I are both coaches. We've been coached. We've been doing this for, 10 years. So we're pretty safe and pretty efficient by ourselves, right? And we can maybe push ourselves a little bit more on our own than maybe others. I would say if you're newer to like fitness, I think it's probably more in your benefit to go somewhere that has a coach or an instructor, just to make sure you're doing things safely, right? As kind of the primary thing, as opposed to trying to get started on your own, especially with weights, but really any movement-based activities. You just want to make sure you're safe, and having that eye on you carries dividends, more than I can express. And then at some point transitioning, when you are a good mover and a safe mover and have high body awareness, which is part of it too, and knowing when to stop or when to push, and what's kind of a good feeling or feedback and what's bad, that's what you need to be able to be successful, I think, on your own as well, especially if you don't have a coach. And, I program for athletes and they're remote, and I encourage them to send me videos, because I know it's hard because I can't be there live with them. Right. Yeah. And I want them to be as efficient and as safe as possible when I'm giving them movements. So, and I got a good group and they're really responsive and they know that. And I think if you are by yourself and you're unsure, at the very minimum, find a coach that has that accessibility, right? To be able to at least give you feedback, at the very least post kind of workout or post movement. But ideally, again, in person is always going to be better in that sense when you're learning a new skill.
Yeah, it can't be expressed probably enough. But, and you were talking about that, and I just kind of thought about something is what I do this sometimes, and actually quite a bit lately when I'm working out by myself. Something that I kind of do is I will videotape myself. And for no other reason than the fact that I'm like, if I give up on this workout, it's on video. And it's like it's one extra step. And like when you're working out by yourself, like if you were to give up, you kind of have to live with it. And you're like, maybe it wasn't my day, or maybe you're even more negative and you're like, man, I'm such a wuss, whatever it is. Right. For me, if I set up a video on my phone and I'm just videoing myself working out, it's kind of just that extra little extrinsic, like something is watching me, somebody is watching me. And it's very easy for me to delete the video if I were to quit the workout. And, but it's like one extra step. It's like one more thing.
You have to go delete that video, Ted.
Yeah, exactly. Much like if I was in a group, I was like, I can just walk out the door. Nobody's going to stop me. You know what I mean? Like I can get up and leave.
But everyone's going to see you do it.
But everyone's going to see me do it. Yeah. And so for me, that's like, whether you want to call that a tip or whatever, but that's that's just kind of something that I've tried, and it does work well for me.
Sure.
I think maybe just because, like I said, it's just that one more thing that it's like not just me. It just allows me to kind of visualize somebody or something kind of like thinking about me working out. My next question for you, Cody, is, so as a guy, again, who really prefers solo, what are some of the pros now to a group, right? We talked about this a little bit, but like specifically, like, so for you specifically, somebody, and I think this is maybe even a good exercise because we probably have trained people that prefer being solo, and then now we're in a one-on-one situation as a coach. So what are some things that we can think about that a client maybe can think about that is making the move from working out by themselves to now working out with other people around them?
Yeah, I think there's some big things that stand out to me. Obviously, if this is a coach-based setting, there's obviously the coach there, and the workout might be pre-programmed for you. So there's not much in terms of that stress. You just show up, you ideally warm up as a group, right? And you're starting to build these bonds as well. Like, you're making friendships. And this is obviously if you're going to a group-based class structure. And obviously that breeds just accountability, and accountability then kind of breeds consistency, thus success, right, as well. So there's always this chain reaction. And it's just a great stress reliever. We are social beings, right? As someone that is an introvert, I obviously recognize that we're social beings and we need social interaction. Yeah. And I think that's a very important part to our mental health. And maybe some of us has experienced even just this past year in 2020 with the pandemic of getting a bit of a toll in that sense of just not having that social interaction. So there's always that positive. And if you're not working out in like a group-based or coach-led class and you're going with a buddy, like you and I have trained together consistently for stretches of time when we were living in the same town. And there's just kind of a great push that comes with that, right? Where you're gonna work a little bit harder. It's not that you want to show off, I don't think, but just that energy's there. You're both pushing, past your comfort levels, and there's that bond of shared suffering that just can be very impactful.
Yeah, it is. I think anybody who is, I don't know, maybe it's a guy thing, but I don't know. And I think anybody who says that they don't try a little bit harder when other people are around I just don't really believe that in a way. Yeah. I mean, do you think, so this is a good question for you as a guy who works out by himself. So what, you said today was a bit of a rest day. Like what's maybe a tough workout you've done in the last week or something that you have planned for the future? Can you give me an example? Just real quick.
I did a little conditioning piece on Saturday. It was, what did I do? 3 rounds of 25 calories on the rower, then 15 box jumps. And then I did a 150 pound sandbag carry kind of up and down the street.
Yeah.
So that was high intensity workout
that
for
sounds
me.
Like very much. So it sounds awful, to be honest, but in a good way. But so it kind of, it just brings us back to, what do you need out of the workout? What do you need out of it, right?
Are you getting an intention?
And so is your intention to pin your ears back, set your hair on fire, and try to blow the doors off and work your ass off? Now, if I'm there next to you and we're doing that workout together, we're probably closer to that, right?
Yeah, you're going to be a little closer for sure.
And especially if we communicate that as our intention. Many, many, many times, you and I have worked out together and we're like, we're going to do this workout. We want to try to keep it somewhat conversational. We're just trying to get a little sweat in, right? Mm-hmm. Other times, we haven't said that. And usually when we don't say that, that's usually a good cue that we're going to try to, like I said, pin our ears back, set our hair on fire, and try to blow the doors off, right?
Yep.
But
and I usually am thinking, like, how is Ted going so fast? I can't keep up.
But again, if the intention is to improve my fitness a little bit, have it be very therapeutic, find a good headspace, sometimes that's easier to find by yourself. And I agree, yep. Right? Like, if you're by yourself, you can kind of like get into the quote unquote zone sometimes a little bit too by yourself. But anything else you'd like to add, Cody?
No, I think it kind of I mean, there's obviously going to be more, and I'm sure our listeners can think of, even with their own experiences, some pros and cons either way. And it's just up to you. What do you prefer? What's your personality? What's your style? What's going to create success for you? And then just kind of follow that path.
All right, there you have it. Just a quick little list of some pros and cons versus training in the solo dojo of your quarantine garage gym, like many of us have been doing this last year, or having a workout buddy, being a part of a group. Both have pros, both have cons. I think whatever it is, the pros in both of them are heavier than the cons in both of them. Work out. It's good for you, right? But hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.